Welcome back once again to First Canada's FTC Sim tutorials. This series is about how to use FTC Sim, a first tech challenge robot simulator created by First Canada. Today's video tutorial is going to be a continuation of where we left off with encoders. So if you don't remember, encoders are things inside of many motors, including the motors in FTC robots and FRC robots, First Tech Challenge robots and First Robotics Competition robots, and even actually in EV3 Lego robotics robots and those motors that allow you to be more precise with your how far you go forward, how far you go backward in terms of your turns and so forth. So the more you want to be precise, the more you want to use ticks in motor encoders instead of using time. So in this particular one, basically what will happen is that the robot will go to a certain distance. It'll go to a position based on the number of ticks that the motors turn. And in this particular case, we're using the run mode run to position for encoders. This is used for encoders. And then we put in the target position that we want it to go to, which is 2200 ticks, keeping in mind that one full revolution of the axle on this particular brand of motor is 1440 ticks. So those ticks didn't take us far enough in the last video, if we recall, and we actually put in 2500 ticks. I've changed it now because I want to demonstrate something else. So one of the things that we want to look at is because you might have to make turns and go forward and turn left and go forward and so forth, because perhaps you're trying to avoid an obstacle or go on a certain angle and you're not always going to be going straight. So you might not be doing it all in one shot. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually simulate, well, we've had to stop and then we're going to continue. So that's what we'll do. But before we do, I want to point out one thing. In the last video, we kept taking sections of code out because they weren't needed. And this section of code is not needed, so let's take it out. We don't need it, so we'll remove it. So here's what I think I would like to do. I'd like to go to a certain distance. I'd like to stop, which it does. I'd like to pause, and I'd like to go a little further. We won't be turning because we'll just continue to go straight. So one of the things that we didn't do in the last one, is we didn't have to, but we will now, is there's another mode that we need to use here for our encoders, and we'll put them up in the initialization section. And what we need to do is we need to stop and reset our encoders. That'll reset them to 0. Now, it shouldn't make any difference at the beginning of the program because they haven't been used. But if you're using a robot in competition and you've been practicing or moving it around before the match starts, the encoder might get a value. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to reset them to 0. So now we've done that. It won't make any difference in this particular case because the way this one is set up, it doesn't have anything. We're just plopping it down and going. So what we want to do is once we get to that point, we'd like to pause. So in this particular case, I think I do actually need this sleep. So I'm going to put it in right here, and I'm going to make it like 3 seconds. So it's going to pause. And then what I would like it to do is I would like it go 200 more. So I could do a couple of different things. I could say I want to set the target position now to 2400, but because I'm trying to demonstrate something else, I'll say what I really want to do is I want to duplicate this one. I want to set the encoders to 0, and then I want to set a new target. And I'll scroll down a little bit here so we can see more of it. So I want to set a new target position of maybe 200. So we'll put down 200, and then we'll duplicate that and change it to the right motor. So basically I want to see it go forward, it pause for 3 seconds, and then go forward a little bit more, which it does. Okay, so if there were lines on the floor and we were trying to get from this spot where we had to start, sometimes they say you have to start here. Like you might have to start against the wall, and you might have to go over here in one match or maybe in the next match, randomly it chooses that you have to go over there. So you might need to make some turns, and you want them to be precise, and this is one of the ways in which you can do that. So the next thing I might want to do instead of going forward is actually I might want to go backwards. And there's a couple of ways that we can do that in FTC Sim. One of the ways, the easiest way that we can do that is to go in here and we can change this to -200. Now, you might say, well, that's great. It's really simple. Does that work in on a real FTC robot? You'd have to try it and see. So it barely moves. So let's actually make it more obvious. So we'll make it -2200. Oh, actually, we'll just do 2000. So it goes close to where it started, but it doesn't go exactly to where it started. So -2000. And let's see if it's more obvious that that's what it does. So there it goes. It pauses for 3 seconds, and then it backs up. So there's another way to do this. So let's leave it at 2000. And what we can also do is, remember at the beginning of the very first program, we set the direction of left motor to reverse so that both motors would end up spinning in the same direction. So we can actually go in and do that again. So let's set the left motor now is going forward, and let's duplicate that and set the right motor to go in reverse. And even though the ticks are positive, the motors are spinning in a different direction. So let's see if it'll do exactly the same thing. And of course it does. And so one of the things that reinforces for us is that there's always more than one right answer. There's always more than one right answer in coding. And as we can see today, there's more than one right answer in working with robots. So there's lots of different ways that we could do the same thing. We really don't have much room to turn, but we could say, oh, we're going to make, go forward and then turn to the right, or turn to the left and then go forward again. And one way to be very, very precise is to use these encoders. So you will try some of the other challenges, I bet, and find that this is a really helpful thing to know. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. This was FTC Sim Encoders 2. And hopefully you'll join us again when we do our next video tutorial from First Robotics Canada about FTC Sim. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them to me at pkeenan@firstinspires.org. Hope to see you next time.